everybody, let's see how many impromptu episodes of the show we can do in a row. So first of all, I'm going to apologize for a couple of things. I got kids in the room over here watching Iron Man, so you might hear a little bit of that in the background. I apologize. Also, as I mentioned in the comments or description of my last video, trying something different. I'm filming with a Samsung S8 full phone filming. So let me know what you think about the video quality and the sound. I don't think it's as good, but it's a little bit easier to transfer and stuff like that. This is kind of the last chance for this setup to see how the video turns out. So editing it fully in Linux, not in Final Cut Pro. So just trying some different stuff. But anyway, so let me know what you think about video quality, audio, and how all of that sounds. And briefly, I'm going to hit mute over here on my computer so we don't have to hear updates from that. So what are we talking about today? Today, we're talking about batteries. If you've been watching the show or have gone back and watched any of my old episodes, you might remember this bad boy. It is a 24 volt, 20 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery from BioNO that I bought for my scooter project that replaced 2 lead acid batteries that were in the scooter. It weighs less than half as much as those 2 batteries together, and has much better charge qualities, run qualities, and things like that. And so it was great. My kids love to ride the scooter around. We had a good time. I made a couple of videos about the light strip that I put around it. Maybe I'll link a couple of those videos up if you want to check those out. But what happened? Well, I've charged this thing all of maybe a dozen times. Like, my kids don't ride this thing all the time. It's kind of just like a random thing. So we haven't charged it, I would say, less than 10 times in the just over a year and a half that I've had it. And it's not charging anymore. If you read the voltage on the plug right here, it's at 0.7 volts, so less than a volt. And I've tried multiple times to plug it into the factory supplied charger to charge it back up, and it won't. So it's dead. It's a super heavy paperweight at this point. And so this isn't a review of the battery, although it's not great that it's not charging anymore after so few charges. And again, it's not in a very harsh environment. It sits on the scooter. The kids are not allowed to ride it in nasty weather. They ride it on nice, bright, sunny days. And again, it's only been charged a few times. So not harsh conditions. There's no reason this battery should no longer be charging. But the problem, and what I want to talk about on today's episode, is shipping regulations around lithium batteries. This is a very interesting space that I've learned about yesterday and into today that I wanted to share with you. I'm going to disclaimer all of this with, I don't know, and I'm not a regulation expert on all of the UN labels and regulations around lithium batteries. I just want to share my experience and what I've learned about how these things, you need to be careful if you're going to buy a giant lithium battery off the internet. So what happened is I reached out to BioNO and they said, yeah, sure, you're technically outside of warranty, but we'll go ahead, and if you will send us the battery back, we'll take a look at it. It definitely shouldn't have gone dead. And so they said, just stick it in a box, send it back to us. So I went down to the UPS store and put it in a box. And they, if you've ever shipped anything at the UPS store, the question they ask you is, can you confirm that there's no lithium batteries in here? And in this case, I told the girl, I'm like, there's only lithium battery in there. It's a lithium battery. And she's like, okay, I just need to know what label to stick on it. So she asked me a couple questions, and then the package was left open at the store, and I left. I paid like $14 for ground shipping. You have to send it UPS ground, is what I was told. And I thought that was it, until about an hour later, I got a call from the UPS store saying, sorry, you're gonna have to come and get your battery. We cannot ship this. And I said, oh, why not? And they're like, well, because of the size of the battery, it classifies as hazardous material, and UPS cannot ship it. Which I responded, well, I mean, can't ship it how? Like, it showed up on my front porch from a UPS truck. Like, the UPS truck dropped it off, so it can ship. And the guy's like, nope, UPS can't ship it. Okay, whatever. So he said, maybe it's just because we're a local UPS, maybe you take it down to like a shipping hub and they can ship it from there, but I can't ship it out of my store. Fine. So I called I'm going to set this down, it's getting heavy. So I called UPS, and immediately when they heard lithium battery, they said, oh, I can't help you. I need to transfer you to our hazmat department. transfer me to hazmat. I talked to a very nice lady in the UPS hazardous materials department who explained to me that as a consumer, I cannot ship that battery through UPS air or ground. And because I told her the same thing, I'm like, well, but the battery showed up on a UPS truck. So can you explain what magical powers Bioenno has that I don't have? And she said, yes, they have a hazmat contract with us, which means they have been trained on proper packaging of lithium batteries and are certified to do that. And they have a contract that assumes some responsibility with UPS if anything were to go wrong when they ship it through a ground service. Okay, that is the explanation I was looking for. That's why as a consumer, I can't just drop it off and ship it, but why as a company, Bioenno can ship it. And so I said, well, what are my options? And she said, we can ship it through UPS Freight because it doesn't have the same federal regulations. And you'll have to call our freight department for that. So I called the freight department. And after answering a bunch of questions, I found out that to ship it from here to California, Utah to California, I can use UPS Freight for the low price of $800.38. Now, I only paid... What did I pay for? I paid $410 for the battery originally. And so obviously I'm not going to pay $800 to ship it back. So I said, well, let's try FedEx. I called FedEx. As soon as they heard lithium, they said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to transfer you to our hazardous materials department. So right away you're seeing the pattern here. Shipping companies and lithium, they don't want to talk. They're straight to the hazmat department. And I understand, the Note explosions. Was it the Galaxy Note that exploded? You see all these viral videos on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter of batteries spontaneously combusting and going awry. And I understand as a shipping provider the dangers of, certainly putting that on an airplane. They don't want to assume that risk. But even putting it on a truck where you're on a highway somewhere in Nevada and the whole truck goes up in flames because of some guy's lithium battery. Now, to be fair, lithium iron phosphate, as I explained in my previous video, is much safer chemistry than a normal lithium ion battery that you'd have in your laptop. In fact, you can actually look up videos of these on the internet where people will shoot them with a nail gun and they won't go into this like runaway mode of catching everything on fire. They're extremely safe, and that's one of the reasons why I bought this kind of battery for the scooter that my kids were riding around on. That way, if there was any sort of a puncture event, it wasn't going to be crazy life-threatening or anything like that. However, as I've learned, under federal regulations, lithium iron phosphate and normal lithium ion batteries are not seen any differently by the federal government. And again, we're here in the United States. They consider them the same and equally hazardous, which, we can't do anything to change. Whether they are or aren't doesn't matter. That's what the law says. And so I got into this weird scenario or position where you can buy these very big batteries on the internet, but and they come with warranties, but when it's time to, if anything goes wrong and you have to exercise that warranty, you have and this is what the FedEx hazmat department said. They should know, talking about Bioenno, the company, they should know that you have no legal way to ship that battery back to them, which I thought was really interesting. And there were a lot of other interesting things that happened between UPS and FedEx. FedEx said if they had shipped it through FedEx, we have a hazardous materials return contract with companies where they can send you all the materials to package it up and send it back, like a complicated return shipping label. When I called UPS back, because that's how I got it, was UPS ground, I said, hey, FedEx has this hazmat return shipping thing for companies. Do you offer anything like that I might be able to go through Bioenno to get from them? And the lady very succinctly said, no, we don't, because that's illegal. And then she described how you have to have a license for packaging this up, or a certification or something, of where they can't just give it to a random person and expect it to be packaged safely under federal regulations. So FedEx says they offer a service. UPS says that service is completely illegal. At this point, I don't know who to believe. So I reached back out to Bioenno and said, I've been talking to shipping carriers all morning. This is where I'm at. What can we do here? To which they replied, put it in an unmarked box and slap this return sticker on it and this UN I can't remember which UN sticker was, UN classification label on the side, and then just drop it off at your UPS store. It's a dry lithium iron phosphate battery, and that should be fine. So I took it back down to the UPS store and I said, here's the email from the company that says all you got to do is stick this sticker on, and I've got all the labels. Can you ship it now? It was a different person than I talked to the day before, and they were like, no, let me call the hazmat. They called the hazmat. No, we're not shipping it. There's no way that battery is leaving our UPS store to be shipped to California. And so I am not fully to the bottom of this yet. I'm not sure if Bioenno is just trying to get me to drop it off and just label it in such a way that nobody will ask any questions and it'll be safe and get back to them, and don't ask, don't tell kind of thing, as long as nobody gets hurt. The FedEx lady scared me a bit though, because she said, whatever you do, don't just slap a sticker on that battery and try and send it through our ground service. If anything goes wrong, you're liable, and it's a federal offense because this is all federally regulated. And so kind of put the fear into me of not trying to say, well, I don't. She made it sound like you can't just raise or do this and say, I didn't know. So that's where I'm at. And I'm not sure how to proceed. I'm still going through it, but I wanted to at least share this information for if you're going to buy a battery like that, and if I end up, I don't know how this will end up, I'll keep you posted, but if I end up having to buy another battery, I'm still deciding on whether I would do that through Bioenno or not, but I would want to ask, what's your warranty? It's a year. In the event in that year that something goes wrong, there's all these federal regulations, and because of the size of the battery, that's something I forgot to mention. This is all just because of how big this battery is. The same regulations don't apply for small batteries like would be in my Puck or things like that. It's over, I believe it's over 100 watt hours. This is a 480 watt hour battery, and that's why nobody wants to touch it or ship it. But I would ask the company that I'm purchasing it from, if there is a warranty issue, how do I get the battery back to you? What is your concrete plan? Because I can't ship it through my local UPS or FedEx, and you can't just send me a return label, apparently. To be determined. I'm going to get to the bottom of this and share it with all of you, but I just wanted to sort of lay out the story there and explain that this is a scenario you might find yourself in. Be careful if you're going to buy a large battery. These are getting very popular for things like solar storage and home storage and projects everybody wants to have. Nobody wants to ride a bike or pedal a scooter or thing anymore. It's all battery powered. And so you might be in the market for a battery of this size that's over the 100 watt hour. I think it's 100. Don't hold me on that, but it's somewhere in that range where you're over 100 watt hours, where it's federally regulated and nobody wants to touch it as you being a consumer. Now, if you're a company and you have a hazmat contract with the shipping provider and all this other certification stuff that may or may not exist, you're fine. But again, you're just an end consumer. You don't have any of that, so you have no way to get that battery back. And so at this point, the funny part about all of this is it would literally be cheaper for me to rent a car, drive to California, drop it off, than to pay $800 to freight ship it. Or another option that I learned about today is that there are hazardous material shipping companies that have all of these licenses and contracts, and you can ship it through them. My understanding is at a minimum, you're looking at a couple $100. Again, to ship a dead, very safe battery to California. And so that is the story of the day. And I will keep you informed of how this turns out. I'm still working with Bioenno to figure out how to do this. I want to make sure I'm doing this legally. I don't want to just, hey, slap it in a box. Nobody's going to know. It's going to be safe. Nobody will get hurt and you'll be fine. I want to make sure that this is done right and legally, and exploring what options exist for companies that sell batteries like this and offer warranties. How do you get them back to them? So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for joining. Again, let me know. I don't feel like the video quality is as good, but I would love to hear your feedback, video, sound, anything like that on how this video turns out on the Samsung S8. Thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing day.